It's the golden age of cinema, and we've been rooting out communists trying to infiltrate the American film industry.
We've been playing Hollywood 1947 by Facade Games. Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and we are Boxed Meeples. We have been playing Hollywood 1947 by Facade Games. It's a social deduction game, which is a type of game that we've played quite a bit of actually. But if you don't know too much about this one, then here's a little overview for you.
Welcome to Hollywood in the classic golden age. But beneath the glitz and glamour of the film industry, Soviet corruption is at work. Hollywood 1947 is a social deduction game for up to 9 players. There are communists hiding in a small production studio, slipping unpatriotic messages, themes, props and lines into your all-American wholesome movie. At the start of the game, each player will draw a unique job to perform and a loyalty card that shows their political allegiance for the entire game. There will either be a communist, a patriot, or a rising star. Everyone is given 3 cards, and then they roll a dice to determine who is the star for the round. All remaining jobs are then displayed. After a film is chosen, each player will then complete the tasks set out on their job card. These will affect what kind of movie is being made that round, what cards are in the player's hand, and who will get to influence the film. Players can choose to skip their jobs, to instead re-roll any 2 of the dice in the game. Or they can spend their turn exchanging their job for a new one. Once everyone's completed their job, all starred players must then secretly play a card from their hand, hoping to skew the film's social agenda to align with their own loyalty. 1 card is then added blindly from the deck. Any relevant job skills will then be performed and the deck is shuffled. 1 card will be removed and the rest will be revealed. The team with the majority of revealed symbols, including the symbol on that round's movie poster, will win the round. Players then indicate the winning team for the round by placing that team's matching film strip over the movie poster. If a confessional hearing card had been played in the previous round, everyone re-rolls their dice. If a shake-up card has been played the previous round, players are now given new jobs, but not new loyalty. But regardless, you draw up to 3 cards and then play another round. Once 4 films have been completed, players must now reveal their loyalty. The first team to win 4 rounds win the game. The rising star will have to play both sides, trying to make the game go to 7 rounds by tying the results. As a social deduction game, you must never show your cards or your loyalty to anyone. But you can say whatever you want about the cards you put into a movie or the card you're keeping in your hand. Open discussion about loyalty is always encouraged. However, if you are a communist or the rising star, lying will often help you achieve your goals. So, Hollywood 1947 might be a game about making movies, but you should always be careful about who you trust. And that's a wrap.
We hope that's given you a little taster of the game, and of course now we'll go into our 5 reasons why we particularly like it and why we think you might too.
I've always loved the Hollywood studio system, you know, the 1940s time when people were making those fantastic black and white films. And this is a game that's based entirely around that. It's dripping with theme. All of the art included in it are these wonderful film parody posters. And as you're flicking through, you're reminded of all the famous films from that era. Obviously they're not the same in this game, they each refer to a different genre. But you get a taste of what they're aiming at. Now, historically, at this point in time, 1947 was a significant time because this game is based on actual communist trials that happened in that year in Hollywood. America was convinced there were Russian spies amongst them infiltrating their films, to the point that they even approached big studio heads to try to report anyone who might be doing suspicious communist activity. So what you're actually doing is you play this game, in some ways mirrors what happened in real life.
The artwork and things, each of those sort of films mock-ups that you're putting out to see which film you're going to make and sort of which side it's going to land on, they feel like real movie posters. Like, I'm like, oh, do we want a romance or a thriller this time? They're really engaging, and sometimes you almost want to go with one that's not necessarily to do with your allegiance, just because you like the look of the front so much. It's absolutely brilliant, and it really fits the theme, as does this wonderful box, which I really appreciate, that sort of book style that the box is going for. The little tokens that are sort of got the little pieces, the clapperboard and all those sort of bits and bobs, all those nice details just really add to drawing you into the theme and what's going on in the game. So really appreciate that.
And it's not amazing art at the expense of accessibility. The cards themselves look beautiful, with each of the jobs having their own illustration, but at no point are you searching for what the actual card does. It's all very, very clear. And even the card you're playing, it's immediately obvious if you're playing a communist card, if you're playing a patriot card, and there's never any confusion about what does it actually do. And once you've secured your allegiance in the film, placing those little plastic acetate over the top is a really lovely touch, because then you're looking over them at the end of the game going, oh, communist film, patriot film. It's little touches like that that really elevate this production above so many others you see nowadays.
Yeah, we did play a game at sort of max player count of 9, and when you've got such a big table, such a lot of people around the table, for it to be so clear where you are in the game, you know, it's 3-2 or it's 4-2 or whatever, is great. You don't want to be sort of standing up and peering over and trying to work out where we are, who's where, particularly in this style of game, because potentially that could give the game away as to where your allegiances lie, and you don't want to do that. So that the layover is really important, how clear that is. Now, you would have seen in the overview there are potentially 9 jobs that you could be doing throughout the game. And these, I think, are really key and really interesting to how the game plays. There has been some social deduction games that we've played before, and I've sort of felt like I was a bit frozen out doing nothing unless someone sort of chose me and picked me to participate. Whereas in this game, you're always doing something with your job, and the jobs really allow you to manipulate what's going on and try to change the tide. And of course you can change job roles. The job roles are letting you re-roll dice, they're letting you re-pull cards out. They are key to what is going on within the game, allowing that manipulation of things that are going on, and it's a real decision space there.
Yeah, and I think once you get used to your role, you start seeing how it can be used to your advantage, how you can manipulate others to do your bidding, and then suddenly you've got a different job. Everyone's got a new job, and then you start to really think again, reevaluate what everyone's doing, and were they just doing that because originally they had a certain job, or were they doing that because they were a communist and trying to sneak in their sneaky ways into your film?
Particularly in the higher player count game that we played for the full 9 players, it was interesting that if you haven't rolled a star, so you know that you're not going to be included in putting your card in that round, the job roles were really interesting, because you are sort of begging other players to get you back in effect. You know, can I re-roll my dice please? Can I get new cards please? Can I do that? And yeah, those chances for conversation and sort of trying to get other people to think you're on their side to work with you on their team or your team, but it might not be. They are, yeah, really key.
Your first reaction might be, in a social deduction game that has dice, well, I'm not going to be in control of that. That's going to be determined by the dice. And in fact, there are many social deduction games that do feel very random. You do feel like, well, they won because they had the right cards. They won because they rolled the right number on the dice. The dice in this game behave very differently. They give you opportunities. If you roll the star, you're voting in the construction of the film. But you don't always want to be doing that. Sometimes, if you've got really terrible cards, you're kind of longing for you not to be participating, because it's actually going to be detrimental to your cause. You're going to be helping out the other team. Alternatively, you might be desperate to play a card because you've got those double icon cards which are really going to sway the influence of the film. Now, throughout the game, there are plenty of opportunities for the dice to be re-rolled. You can, of course, re-roll them yourself by not doing your job action and actually choosing yourself to re-roll. Alternatively, if you know someone is definitely on the side of the communists if you're a patriot, or the patriots if you're a communist, and you want to take away their power, you can force them to re-roll. Of course, it's not guaranteed that they're not going to roll another star, but there's a chance that you're going to be taking away their power at a crucial moment in the time. So, yes, there is random elements in it, but it feels like you're in control of that randomness.
Yeah.
You're not at the mercy of it. And even if you then are continuously rolling bad dice, there's enough job rolls around there that's going to give you a voice. The director can give you a token so you're participating. There are people who can offer up, the gaffer, for example, can offer up rerolls. Just beg them. Say, I need these dice to be different, and hopefully, if they trust you, they'll be doing that for you.
And it's interesting because particularly in a much higher player count, you don't necessarily want everyone to be including a card because you're then not learning as much about who's around the table. So sometimes those rounds where you have less people including cards because they have the star on the dice, actually let you know more about what's going on around the table than those when you're trying to get yourself into the game again and again and again. And I found that quite interesting, particularly because you're looking at up to 7 films. So you haven't got that long to find out who's what's going on, how's everyone's allegiances lying. So sometimes having a few rounds where you're not maybe putting a card, or there's only a few around the table that does include you, at least you know what you've put in and you know who else is in play. You get some inklings as to what's going on. And
say there are 3 people with stars. They're all suspected communists. They're putting in their cards. Well, that's not the end of the story, because at one point you're then putting in a random card and you're removing a card. So even if you are completely convinced that what's going on is exactly what you think is going on, suddenly that reveal at the end, was that the extra card that went in, or was someone who I trusted actually lying? It's randomness, but it's controlled randomness.
So what I've found in the past with some other social deduction games is that sometimes you can be sort of eliminated out of the game altogether, or suddenly frozen out of different rounds. And in this game, that's really not the case. There's always something for you to do, and I really enjoyed that. Obviously, we've spoken about the job roles. That allows you to manipulate things to still be included within the game, but there is no actual elimination.
Once you are exposed, it's not the end. Yes, everyone knows you're a communist, but then that presents you with an opportunity to be a team player, casting doubt on anyone you know to be a patriot, because at the start of the game it's only the communist who know is on their team. The patriots know nothing about the other players.
You're still able to deflect the suspicion from your communist comrades. So everyone else around the table maybe can start suspecting another of the patriots because you know who the other communists are around the table. So you can sort of try to act together, try to deflect any of those suspicions upon someone else who's definitely put a double communist card in that last round, didn't they? They're very suspicious.
Yeah, being outed in so many other games means you're sitting back, you're not involved. But in Hollywood 1947, unless you're a rising star, you only win as a team. And that's what makes this game such a great social deduction game. Now, the idea of a solo social deduction game seems a bit of an oxymoron. It seems like those two things don't go together.
No, how does that work?
But bizarrely, in Hollywood 1947, there's actually a really fun solo mode that you can also play as a duet mode, a dual mode. Yes, there's no social deduction. Everyone knows if you're playing with 2, for example, one of you is a patriot, the other is a communist. That's open information, everyone knows that. And instead the game shifts more to a kind of trying to manipulate the cards you know and the cards you don't. The game rules are tweaked ever so slightly. So you have new actions you can do where you have ghost players and they each have a random card. Now you can try and manipulate these cards in the same way you would be trying to manipulate other opponents if you're playing in a group game. You can look at them for one of your actions, Alternatively, you can just take away their power by re-rolling their dice if you know that the cards they've got is really going to help out your opponent rather than you. It feels a different game, but it still feels like a really fun game.
Yeah, we often say that we're reluctant to buy games that don't play at 2 because this is how we often play. So I really appreciate that way of, it's almost having sort of 2 styles within the same game, but we are able to play it together, and it is an interesting game. And I think the fact that you have that card manipulation that plays so well in the solo and as a duet just proves how well it then works with the sort of social deduction proper with the larger player count, because all of that stuff that you're doing as a 2-player is all of that added stuff that we love when it comes to not knowing who's playing what role and having that extra layer of suspicion for all of the players around the table. We hope those 5 reasons that we love Hollywood 1947 have given you a good idea as to whether it will be a game for you as well. We, over the last couple of years, have played quite a lot of social deduction games and can actually say that this is our new favourite.
Yeah, we've really got the feel for Hollywood, and I can imagine it being a really great theme night, for example, getting the friends around, dressing up and having a full-on experience playing this game. Ideal for people who played a lot of board games, but also people who are new to this kind of thing, because it's so easy to explain.
Yeah.
People grasp this game within 1 turn, and then they want to play it again. And it's a really immersive, engaging game that's lots of fun. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, check out the Kickstarter, back it. And if you're new to finding out about us, we are Box Meeples. We post a video on YouTube at least twice a week, always about board games. So hopefully you'll find something you like on our channel too. So for now, it's going to be back to 1947 for us as we try to root out all of those communists.
See you next time.